thank you, all of you, for being here at TEACH. It's our first time in person, and at in-person TEACH since 2019. And yeah, I was going to say this has been a tough year, but what a few tough years. I just want to also say thank you to two other people here. The secretary is on his way home to be with his family this weekend. He doesn't get to do that often. So we worked things out that he would be my lead-in speech. Not normally how we would have done it, but you see who he is and how he has really fought the fight for public education and for public educators and for parents and for kids. And I want to just say thank you to Secretary Cardona. His wife, by the way, is a member, and he was a member of the AFT. And the other person I want to thank, who I don't get to see all the time, is my wife, Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum, who is here in the front row. She was supposed to be doing Friday night services tonight, and we are here instead. And I just want to say, just like all of you, families are so important to us, and she has been an incredible soulmate for me, particularly this year. Thank you, Cher. And I'll get to why in a second. But look, you know, we're here. Yes, I know we have popcorn in back, but how do you reward yourself during your time off? You've signed up for, yes, some sizzling professional development in sweltering Washington, D.C. But that's who educators are. We work together to improve our craft. We recharge through our connection and camaraderie. And I think that's what keeps us going. And it's the same with me. After Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State and CIA director, so he knows better, after he called me the most dangerous person in the world, our members had my back. And I love this. You know, teachers being teachers reached out telling me others who were so labeled. Mother Jones, the most dangerous woman in America. Walter Reuther, the most dangerous person in Detroit. Martin Luther King Jr., the most dangerous black man in America. You're getting my point. People sent these to me all the time. But why were they dangerous? Because they challenged deprivation and discrimination. They fought for a better life for their families and their communities. And I am honored to be in their courageous, righteous company. And that righteous company includes all of you and teachers and school staff across the country. And let me say this as clearly as I can. The malicious attacks and outright lies to which our members have been subjected are appalling and disgusting. So why have Pompeo and the president he served, I won't say his name, and others unleash this vitriol against educators and their unions? Remember at the beginning of the pandemic, parents showered praise on teachers and school staff. People saw just how essential the special connection between educators and public schools are with kids, families, and communities. And then the far right wing started their smears. It's no accident. As extremists try to divide Americans from one another, they know that public schools unite us. As they wage cultural wars in our schools, parents know we have children's best interest at heart. We teach. We help young people learn how to think critically, to discern fact from fiction, to be curious, tolerant, to learn the basics, and to discover their potential and their passion. That's why 90% of parents send their children to public schools. Most parents trust teachers, and they want public schools to be strengthened, not privatized. So why? Why do extremists demonize, distort, and demagogue public education? And why don't they offer a single idea to strengthen public schools? The answer, my friends, is pretty clear to me. Because they don't want to improve public education, they want to end it. When they're not trying to slash public school funding, they are diverting it through vouchers to private and religious schools. And that's despite the evidence that vouchers do not improve achievement, that voucher schools often discriminate against children and families, and that vouchers siphon funds from already underfunded public schools. If there's one thing you remember from this speech today, remember what Christopher Rufo said. This is the guy who invented the conflict over critical race theory. And I quote, "To get to universal school choice, you really need to operate from a premise of universal public school distrust." Just grok that. And toward that end, he said, you have to be ruthless and brutal. Distrust, ruthless, brutal. That's the playbook of fearmongers who call hard-working teachers groomers and say we teach filth. That's the playbook of the cultural warriors who censor honest history and ban books like petty autocrats, who pretend racism doesn't exist. That's the playbook of bullies who target and torment LGBTQ kids and families. That's the playbook of those who want to end public education as we know it. And while the fearmongers are out of step with the vast majority of parents and the public, they are determined, well-funded, and yes, ruthless. And nowhere do you see this more than in Florida. So, Governor Ron DeSantis I guess he's not popular in this crowd. He hopes his anti-teacher war on woke will propel him to the White House. And it wasn't enough for him to ban students from taking AP African American Studies, ripping the course out of students in Miami mid-year. Now, and you just heard Secretary Cardona talk about the Vice President being in Florida today. Now, he's whitewashing Black history with this new African American history standard that says enslaved people developed skills that could be applied for their personal benefit. That is morally disgusting and outrageous. It's just unbelievable. And I'm glad the Vice President is down in Florida today calling it out. Thank you. Then there's groups like Moms for Liberty This audience has had its Cheerios today, which was founded in Florida and which, by the way, is labeled extremist by the Southern Poverty Law Center. They're attempting to ideologically take over school boards. So you may have heard of Shannon Rodriguez, who is a Hernando County School Board member, backed by Moms for Liberty. Yeah, there's a reason why people are booing. She targeted, and you saw this on the video, a teacher for showing a Disney movie with a gay character. Well, Rodriguez also went after high school teacher Patty Greenwood for having stickers on her classroom door, including intertwined white and black hands wearing rainbow nail polish. Because, like you, Patty wants all her students to feel safe, welcome, and respected. And Patty, who is the treasurer of our union, is here today with her local president, Lisa Mazzario. Stand up, stand up. Thank you for your courage and righteousness. And let's show a little love. Let's show a little love to our Florida educators. And excuse my interruption, I'm taking a selfie. I'm not so good at the selfies, but let's see what happens. Thank you, Patty and Lisa, for being here. Ruthless and brutal is a thing in Washington as well. Yes, I remember that. Now, in April, some members of Congress called me in to testify. It was a whole hearing in my name. Now, was it about how to help kids learn? No. About the resources schools needed? No. About school infrastructure or civics or community schools? No and no. They wanted to place blame for school closures during the pandemic, not on the pandemic, or on officials who prioritized opening bars and gyms over schools. Nope. They wanted to make teachers, teacher unions, and me their political punching bag. Now, never mind the facts. Never mind that in April 2020, a month after the pandemic shut down schools and most of society, AFT released a comprehensive plan of action to reopen schools and do it safely. Safe for you and safe for our kids. And this one just blows my mind. Never mind all the work you did during the pandemic to meet your students' needs. And never mind that educators understood long before the pandemic the value of in-person teaching, learning, and connecting with students. Frankly, if certain members of Congress didn't interrupt as much as they did, I would have testified about everything we did during the pandemic to reopen schools safely, to secure the support kids and families needed, and what we all need to do to get it right if, God forbid, there is a next time. But indulge me for a moment. Let's imagine I had a modicum of the power they ascribe to me. Here's what I would do. I'd make sure every school has enough counselors, nurses, librarians, therapists, teachers, bus drivers, and other support staff. Wait, that every kid has a rich curriculum that embeds joy and resilience, arts, sports, clubs, recess, field trips, summer camps, and a whole lot more. I'd abolish all unnecessary paperwork for teachers. There'd be lower class sizes and less standardized testing, and it wouldn't be high stakes. And the professionals who teach and support America's children would be treated with the respect they deserve, and the wages they and their families can live on comfortably. And while we're at it, we do the same for every family in America. Alas, I don't possess those powers. But together, we do have a superpower. Because in our union, in our democracy, we can achieve things together that are impossible alone. That's the essence of unionism. Showing up when it counts, fighting, caring, and working together for the things that make life better for our students, our families, our communities, and our society. The responsibilities placed on your shoulders probably feel impossible at times. It can be daunting to help even one child who's suffering with anxiety or who's struggling academically. Yet you, every single day, give your all to meet the needs of all your students, too often without the supports you and your students need and deserve. Even before the pandemic, the United States had a youth mental health crisis and a crisis of lagging student achievement, particularly for marginalized youth. The COVID pandemic and its consequences, it's exacerbated loneliness, learning loss, absenteeism, and so much more. No one has to cite drops in test scores or attendance for us to know that students aren't recovering as fast as we'd like, and that many of our kids aren't okay. Educators and families know the condition of our children better than anyone. Helping kids recover and thrive is your priority. I've seen it in classrooms from coast to coast and in between. What I've witnessed, what educators like you have shown me, what research has proven, all form a set of strategies and solutions that have and will help young people and will also strengthen public education. But, and I was glad to hear the Secretary talk about it today, it has to be a national priority. And it has to be our union's priority. And you know this, too often things get so siloed in education, like we're going to work on academic learning there, or here, and then we're going to work on social and life skills there. But brain science, and frankly common sense, show that physical health, emotional wellness, and feelings of connectiveness, they all influence academic learning. In fact, they influence all learning. Our brains aren't siloed, and our schools shouldn't be either. So how can we do this? We can by committing to these 5 essential solutions that meet kids' needs and committing to try to do them together. First, unlocking the power and possibility that comes from being a confident reader. Second, ensuring that all children have opportunities to learn by doing. We call it experiential learning, but it's what we do in CTE all the time, career tech ed all the time. Third, caring for young people's mental health and well-being, including by demanding that social media companies protect, not prey on children. Four, catalyzing a vast expansion of community schools that meaningfully and meaningfully partner with families. And fifth, of course, by fighting for the teaching and support staff and the resources students need to thrive. Now, I'm going to talk about each one of them briefly. But these are the foundations of the $5 million year-long campaign the AFT is launching today called Real Solutions for Kids and Communities. These are strategies that will address loneliness and learning loss and literacy, and we can and will do everything to spread and sustain them. We'll visit classrooms and communities across the country, lifting up these solutions and the countless other things you do every day to help kids succeed. So, this starts with reading, the foundation for all academic learning. AFT's Reading Opens the World program, in partnership with First Book, you've already heard, we've given out, many of you participate in this, 1.5 million books already last year, and our goal is another million by July 2024. So 2.5 million books. So, sharing the joy of reading, when kids and families choose their own books at these events, it's one of the best endorphin rushes you could have, at least if you're a teacher. The wonder in kids' eyes, the smiles on their faces. But getting books in young people's hands, it's just a start. The ability to read is a fundamental right, and teaching children to read is the most fundamental responsibility of schooling. You know, anyone who's been here for a long time knows that the AFT has been advocating for and training educators on evidence-based approaches to reading instruction for decades. That science of reading points to a systematic approach that includes phonics instruction, along with giving students plenty of opportunities to read interesting and high-quality books, to develop their background knowledge, and to build their vocabulary. But these principles must be included in teacher prep programs, in curricula, and in high-quality professional development. So while some districts continue to ignore the science of reading or think tutoring alone will boost literacy, the good and frankly surprising news is that our country is on the cusp of the most comprehensive approach to reading ever. New research that we released this week from the Albert Shanker Institute evaluated state laws all across the country, and it shows, frankly, real consensus in this evidence-based approach. And school districts, such as New York and Detroit, are pledging to teach reading using that evidence-based approach. Now, that's all good news, but teachers need to be supported in this work. The change is not going to happen overnight. So, AFT is committed to fighting for, but also providing opportunities for teachers to learn, practice, and be mentored in evidence-based approaches. A lot of you are doing that this weekend. But we're also investing in an exciting new project called Reading Universe. Now, this is being led by one of our longtime partners, WETA, along with First Book and the Barksdale Reading Institute, whose work in Mississippi has moved fourth grade reading achievement from the bottom of the country up to the national average. Reading Universe, you're going to see all sorts of stuff about it today and tomorrow. Reading Universe is an online, step-by-step pathway for teachers, paraprofessionals, and reading coaches to learn more about evidence-based reading instruction and then to use it in your classrooms to complement any curriculum. It offers videos filmed in real classrooms with real kids in diverse settings across the country. There'll be a focus on serving English learners, students with dyslexia and other learning issues, and students from marginalized communities. Reading Universe will offer educators everywhere access to strategies and skills that enable them to help kids to be confident, joyful readers, regardless of the curriculum your district or school requires. And it's been built from the start with a cadre of skilled teachers and researchers. So you can tell by this run-up that I am thrilled to announce the launch of this powerful tool today, and don't get your Apple payout because it's free. Yes, free and available online to every educator because all students need and deserve high-quality literacy instruction. So we're making it available not just to our members, but to everybody. Reading, as important as it is just one part of the Real Solutions for Kids and Communities campaign. We know, and some of you have heard me talk about experiential learning for a while, but we know that many kids are disengaged, and many don't want to go to school. You get it, and I get it. There's lots of school experiences that don't interest or inspire young people. But not in Raphael Bonhomm's classroom. Raphael, who's here with us now, teaches third grade at School Within School, right here in DC, and he is an AFT Civics Design team member. We have this AFT Civics Design team. Raphael's students learn about local government by role-playing that they are DC council members addressing real issues affecting their city. So any of you who have those issues from this weekend, I'll introduce you to Raphael. At the end of third grade, his students create DC tour companies, researching the city's historical sites, and then they role play how they would attract people to take their tour, third graders. Denise Pfeiffer, a high school chem teacher in Cincinnati, she's here today too, she creates escape rooms in her classroom. And her students work in pairs, and to get out, they have to solve puzzles that embed the content that they have learned. And why are they both here today? Because both Raphael and Denise are presenting at TEACH. These are examples of experiential learning, and many of us want to do this. I had students in my street law classes at Clara Barton High School role-play housing court mock trials. And in my AP Gov course, my students acted out mock appellate court arguments. But now, in the age of AI and ChatGPT, this type of learning is essential to being able to analyze information, think critically, apply knowledge, and discern fact from fiction. Experiential learning engages students in deeper learning. It provides them with real-world, real-life skills, and it boosts academic achievement. And I heard people say this as I was talking about CTE, because career and technical education is project-based experiential learning at its best, and it's a 21st century game changer. And why? Because CTE prepares students not only for traditional trades like welding, plumbing, carpentry, auto repair, but also careers in healthcare, culinary, advanced manufacturing, aeronautics, IT, graphic design, and so much more. And it works. 94% of students who concentrate in CTE graduate from high school, and 72% of them go to college. So, last month, AFT's CTE committee visited Lynn Vocational and Technical High School in Massachusetts. Students in that culinary program catered a delicious sit-down breakfast for our group of 40 visitors. And we saw beautiful porch swings and sheds handcrafted by carpentry students, and students demonstrated their knowledge of plumbing and pipe fitting. My point is this: these young people graduate from high school with lots of options and opportunities. In Syracuse, New York, I was wondering where the New Yorkers were. A new plant is being built by the semiconductor manufacturer Micron. It's going to create tens of thousands of jobs. At the AFT's initiative, Micron is partnering with school systems and teacher unions in New York to develop a curriculum framework that prepares high school students for engineering and technical careers. And we're working with the region's school systems to develop the teacher training necessary to teach this curriculum. In rural Southeast Ohio, again with the help of our union, schools in New Lexington have expanded CTE to include everything from robotics for third graders, yes, third graders, to a partnership with the IBW to train high school students for in-demand electrical jobs. Now, their graduation in this district, since we've started this, has shot up to 97%, and 30% of the students earn college credits before high school graduation. My point is this, in telling you these three stories, is that by being intentional about this, starting by high school, partnering with employers, creating paid internships, and offering industry-approved credentials or college credit, just like you saw with Red Hawk, we can set young people on many paths right out of high school. After all, preparing kids for college, career, civic participation in life, isn't that the job of public schools? So, if you've been empowered to engage in experiential learning with your students, you know how transformational it is. And you know that standardized test-based accountability systems can't capture the richness of experiential learning. So, as I have advocated repeatedly and will do again today, we need to reimagine our accountability systems to assess what is needed in today's world, not yesterday's. The ability to communicate, to work cooperatively, to think critically, to troubleshoot, to be creative. These are lifelong skills that will enable students to thrive no matter what the future holds, no matter what the next version of AI brings, no matter the challenges they may face. Experiential learning prepares students for opportunities of tomorrow, and community schools help solve the challenges students and families confront today. Hunger, housing insecurity, trauma, physical health problems, even the lack of clean clothing, you know this, they all negatively affect children's ability to learn. And now, after the isolation, stress, and for many young people, the loss of loved ones during the pandemic, the needs are greater. I know you are heroic. I am in countless classrooms and schools year after year. You do it all. Who here keep snacks when students are hungry? Who's had to interrupt your teaching to comfort a student who's distraught? Who's had students with a health or a family problem that interfered with their learning? So, how about this concept? Who would welcome having support services in your school that meet kids' needs and that allow you to focus on teaching? That's what community schools do. Community schools can wrap so much around public schools. Don't think if you're starting it for the first time you're going to do all of this at the same time. But it can wrap healthcare and mental health services and food assistance and childcare and enrichment and tutoring and sports and after-school activities. What its intent is to support what students and families need to learn, to live, and to thrive. And through meaningful partnerships with families and deep community engagement, they become centers of their communities. So, a few other stories. United Community Schools, a network of community schools in New York City. They have expanded, yes, they're here, into Albany. But those schools have higher rates of vulnerable students than other public schools. And yet they perform better on measures like college readiness and the progress of English language learners and students with disabilities. And this is likewise in San Francisco as well. Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School. Before it became a community school in 2015, MLK struggled with enrollment and academics, and educators were burnt out. Now, with support from 40 community partners, there's been significant increases in math and reading scores at MLK, and teachers are choosing to stay. So, what did the United Educators of San Francisco do? They saw the possibilities and worked with a community coalition to pass Prop G last November, which expands this community school model. And when those of you who remember, it feels like an eternity ago, but when I advocated for a broad expansion of community schools, yes, I look much younger. In my first speech as AFT President in 2008, our North Star was Cincinnati. Today, there's a constellation of community schools: Albuquerque and Albany, El Paso and Pittsburgh, Messina and McDowell. AFT members have helped create more than 700 community schools across the country, and we are part of a movement calling for 25,000 community schools by 2025. So, we're fighting to make community schools the norm, not the exception. And we have allies in this fight. California is investing an additional $4 billion into community schools. You heard the Secretary, President Biden doubled federal funding for community schools. And you knew I wouldn't do a speech today without talking about Chicago. And Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, CTU and AFT's own, is dramatically expanding the district's community school program with the goal of all district schools functioning as community hubs through community partnerships. So, while community schools can provide a safe and supportive physical environment for young people, there's an environment that threatens their physical and emotional well-being, and that's social media and the online world. Even before the pandemic, many experts connected the harmful impacts of social media and the nefarious practices of social media companies to the youth mental health crisis. We all know social media has its benefits, and you all know I overuse Twitter. But Research has shown that teens who spend more than 3 hours per day on social media are at double the risk for experiencing symptoms of depression and anxiety. Social media can increase bullying, diminish people's ability to interact face-to-face. It's been tied to eating disorders, suicidal thoughts, and feelings of being less than or left out. And too many kids have an addictive relationship with social media that families can't fix on their own. Schools are also grappling with an increase in dangerous and disruptive behavior linked to social media, such as those viral challenges. Challenges to destroy school property or slap a teacher or to SWAT. That's the one that encourages students to report hoax shootings. They're dangerous and they're traumatic for students, staff, and families. And all of this detracts from our primary mission, which is to protect and educate our kids. So, as schools are struggling to hire mental health professionals and to provide the training that teachers need to better support students with mental health issues, we're calling on social media companies to step up. Social media companies have shirked their responsibility to protect kids. Facebook's own research showed how their algorithms harmed users, especially adolescent girls. Did they change their practices to protect kids based upon what they knew? No, they hid it. These companies must protect young people, not prey on them for profit. It's just not enough to issue a press release promising to improve the viewing experience when recommended for you feeds, send content that glorifies eating disorders, or to settle lawsuits with families grieving for children who received unsolicited videos about suicide. So, the AFT is taking action, and we're not doing this alone. Together with Parents Together, which is a platform of 5 million parents, Fair Play for Kids, Design It For Us, and the American Psychological Association, we are calling on social media platforms to make fundamental changes to prioritize safety for children. Our report, which you can get on the internet, I almost said you could get on social media, our report is called Likes versus Learning, the Real Cost of Social Media for Schools, and it calls for the following safeguards. 1, turning on the strongest safety features by default, so making them the default feature. 2, changes that deter students from addictive behavior, like eliminating autoplay and indefinite scroll. 3, protect children's privacy. 4, shield children from risky algorithms. And 5, what a concept, work with schools and families. Social media companies could implement all of these things right now. And our coalition of students and educators and parents won't let up until they implement these safeguards. I'm glad that Parents Together is with us today. And by the way, so is Reading Universe. And I'm also glad that many students are with us here today, including, and Ryan, I want you to stand up, 15-year-old Ryan Lumber from Oregon. Now, Ryan makes and sells art to fund her program to make everyone in her school community feel welcome and to bridge differences between people. Ryan and Patty, I want you to meet each other. And this is my point. When we join in common cause and common purpose with parents and educators and students and employers and faith leaders and the broader community, we multiply our power to achieve our shared goals. That's why fearmongers and demagogues try so hard to divide. But it takes work to create this trust. But it's transformational. Look at New Haven, where educators and families went to the state capitol together to fight back against school privatization and for much needed education investments. You saw some of this on the video as well, and look at the Michigan Education Justice Coalition, which has trained thousands of people to get involved in their school boards. Thousands of parents and educators, from Yonkers, New York, to ABC in California, from Houston to Detroit. We have fought, and you have fought, in collaboration and partnership for the schools our kids need. Of course, we must continue to work collectively to combat the leading cause of death for children. That cause, the leading cause of death for children in the US, is firearms. Parties, parades, concerts, classrooms. These are all places where our children should feel safe. All places that have been devastated by gun violence. So here's an idea, not so novel. Let's ban assault weapons, not books. Last one. What I'm about to say is obvious to all of you, but we have to fight for it. We need appropriate funding for our public schools, and we need the 3 R's: educator recruitment, retention, and respect. So, the AFT teacher and school staff shortage report that we released last year, it's chock full of solutions. Family-sustaining wages, time to plan and prepare for classes, time to collaborate with colleagues, time to participate in meaningful and in-school professional development, and the power to make day-to-day classroom decisions. It's easy to see what's needed. What's hard is making it happen. But we have in recent collective bargaining contracts. The United Teachers of Los Angeles new contract includes higher pay and smaller class sizes, more funding for community schools, and support for vulnerable students. In New York City, you knew they have an over-under on how long the speech is, but you knew I couldn't mention a speech without talking about my home local. So, in New York City, the UFT's new contract, okay. It increases pay, and it provides more ways for teachers to engage with parents and to support multilingual learners and students with disabilities. The St. Paul Federation of Educators won an agreement for all schools to have mental health support teams, and the Cincinnati Federation of Teachers contract requires an instructional leadership team in every school that puts decisions about school operations and improvement in the hands of those closest to students. We have allies in this fight, including the fight to pay educators more. You heard the secretary. Then there's New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, who enacted a $10,000 raise for all teachers in New Mexico. And then Senator Bernie Sanders and Florida Representative Frederica Wilson, who proposed bills that would raise teacher salaries. And don't forget, President Joe Biden, who called on lawmakers to give public school teachers a raise during his State of the Union address. In years past, when I and others advocated for higher pay for teachers and adequate and equitable education funding, the right wing, even before I'd finish, had a tweet out there that said, or a press release out there that said, money doesn't matter. But evidence does matter, And I admire those willing to follow it, like researcher Eric Hanishek, who argued for decades that more funding didn't lead to better education outcomes. But he has made a stunning turnaround. Hanishek has reviewed the most rigorous research on education funding and finds what you and I know, which is that money does, in fact, matter. As the Albert Shanker Institute documented a decade ago, research shows that when schools get more money, student achievement goes up. But others still operate ideologically because as we speak, House Republicans are trying to cut billions in funding for public education. Yes, it's going to hurt preschoolers, English language learners, but I don't know if you actually heard what the secretary said. It's going to cost, what they proposed will cause unconscionable harm to the millions of children from low-income families because what are these lawmakers proposing? An 80% cut to Title I. 80%. That's not a typo. It's inexcusable. It's defunding public schools. And I am so grateful to all of you who lobbied on Capitol Hill yesterday to turn this around. Because public education must be supported, not stripped. And thankfully, we have allies here too. President Biden's budgets reflect his unwavering support for public schools. Illinois Governor Pritzker signed a budget last month with an additional $570 million for K-12 education. Minnesota Governor Walz approved $2.2 billion in new K-12 spending over the next 2 years. And get this one if you haven't been following it. In Wisconsin, Republican politicians are reeling over the clever way Governor Tony Evers, a teacher by the way, increased per pupil spending for the next 400 years. Hashtag elections matter. So the solutions I've outlined are worthy on their own. Together, they're transformational. Reading truly opens the world. Community schools help students and their families thrive. Experiential learning prepares young people to seize the opportunities in our changing economy. And Student Circle of Care, working together so we can address learning loss and loneliness and fight the culture wars, gun violence, and unrestrained social media. Educators supported, respected, and compensated, befitting their essential role, and adequate funding. Those are the elements of the Real Solutions for Kids and Communities campaign we're launching today. And look, we know how to run contract campaigns, and we know how to run political campaigns. Let's put that same energy and expertise into this campaign to win these solutions for our kids, for educators like you, for our public schools and our democracy. Because without public schooling, without the pluralism it creates, without the opportunity it provides, there will be no freedom in America and there will be no broad-based multiracial democracy. So, it's a long speech to do an ask. This is my ask of you. We need you to tell your stories and showcase the great things happening in your classrooms. Just like I told stories today. We want to lift up the teaching and learning happening all over. We want to lift up these foundational strategies and solutions. We need to embed them in collective bargaining and enshrine them into district policies and state laws so they can be scaled and sustained. And I bet as we address hard issues like loneliness, literacy, and learning loss, we'll not only have long-term allies rooting for us, but the people who have at times been at odds with us. Because everyone wants children to recover and thrive. And that's only possible when our beloved community comes together and supports, not smears, public education and educators. So, are you with me? Are you ready to tap into the literacy tools and reading universe? Are you ready to give kids great free books as others ban them? Are you ready to help kids with practical skills and critical thinking with experiential learning in your classrooms? Are you ready to make community schools the norm? Are you ready to take on social media companies? Are you ready to join this campaign to make every public school in America a safe, welcoming, and joyful place where educators are respected and supported?